I'm going to demonstrate how to open a lock with a method called raking. Now normally I prefer to single pin pick a lock, where you go through individually setting each pin. It requires quite a bit more skill and practice, but if you're in a hurry, and particularly on a cheaper lock that doesn't have security pins in it, then raking is usually the quickest and easiest way to go, especially if you lack the experience. It's a little bit scary sometimes how easy these are to open. There's the first one. So when you're raking a lock, you're basically just going through randomly trying to get lucky and set those pins. On a more expensive lock, they sometimes have more difficult security pins in them. But these cheaper locks, pretty much in the under $15 range, maybe even $20. Boom, that was a Brinks. So you can see there are different types of rakes. If one doesn't work, this is the snake rake, so named because it's got a little bit of a snake-like shape to it. But there are other types of rakes like the Bogota, and the city rake, also known as the L rake. But if one doesn't work, you can just try a different rake until you find one that the lock likes. This is a tension wrench, by the way. With a tension wrench, you have to apply just a little bit of torque or tension to it. So with the city rake, it's a little different. Instead of using the combing or rake-like motion, you just kind of gently rock it. And like I said, what doesn't work for one lock might work for another. Sometimes it's just a little bit of trial and error. If you can actually get a look at the key, then you can see the bitting on the key, and you can get a pretty good idea of which rake is going to work better. But assuming you're going in blind and you don't know, what the bitting looks like, boom, master lock. So that's the city rake. It's also pretty effective. With single pin picking, let me find it. Okay, so single pin picking is just a bit harder, requires a little bit more skill, but like I said, it's a little bit more reliable, and particularly when you get into more difficult locks. So with single pin picking, what you're doing is you're going through and probing. I'm trying to hold this, it's a little bit awkward because I'm trying to hold it in such a way that the camera can see it. But with single pin picking, you're going through probing. There, I just set one pin. You're going through finding each individual pin. I'm gonna have to change my angle here just so I can hold it a little more comfortably. And you're setting each pin individually, and you can kind of feel each time a pin sets. You're looking for something called the binding pin, which it's going to be different for each lock. But on a typical, say $10 or $15 padlock, you're going to have probably 4 pins in it. And you're going through trying to probe each one at a time, just trying to find which one is binding. And it's going to be different on every lock, the order that they go in. Once you set one binding pin, then you kind of start over and you're looking for the next binding pin. And each one's going to have a particular order that you're going to want to go in. But that's the general principle of it. And like I say, every lock is going to be just a little bit different. But certainly when you get above $20 and you get into the more expensive locks, then you're going to need to know how to single pin pick, because the raking isn't going to be as effective. Although some people choose to rake the lock first to set those pins, and you'll get a couple of what they call false sets, where it'll feel like the pin's set, and then you simply go back with the pick and kind of check them individually and figure out which ones are falsely set with the security pins. And anyway, there's a lot of more advanced videos that'll explain that in depth, but that's the basics. That's how you pick a lock.